Hey, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining me here today. It's been a while since I've done one of these and figured I'm way past due. And so, hey, here we are. Thought I'd do a stream this lovely Sunday afternoon here from Utah. So if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. But introduce myself first. My name is Doug. I run a video production company in northern Utah. I've been doing video for about 25-ish years, thereabouts. Video is actually kind of a second job for me. My main job is in software development, and I should probably talk about that in some video on my channel at some point. But anyway, so yeah, I do video production, all sorts, mostly live events more than anything else, and I do a fair number of those events out of this production trailer that I'm sitting in here right now. And if you have not seen the videos that I have here on the channel showing how I built this, then you might want to go back and watch those. It took me about a year to build this thing, and about a year prior to that designing. But anyway, so I digress. The purpose of this video here today is to take questions from you, the audience. So if you have a question, please be sure and leave that in the chat as part of this stream. You do have to be subscribed to the channel in order to be able to leave a question, but you only have to be subscribed for 5 minutes. So if you have a question and you're not yet subscribed, just hit that button and wait 5 minutes and then post your question and it will show up. I mainly do that to keep spam down. That's become a bit of a problem here in the last couple of years. So anyway, I guess we can just jump right in and take some questions from the audience, because there are actually a few that are waiting here. But before I do that, I want to mention that there are 3 streams going out here today. If you're watching one where you're seeing me in the corner, you're not on the main stream, you're on one of the auxiliary streams. And those streams are being generated by Blackmagic Web Presenter HD and Web Presenter 4K. I wanted to do kind of a parallel test. The main stream is being done by OBS, and I'm taking a quad view of this stream and the monitor outputs of the Web Presenter HD, Web Presenter 4K, and also a view of some constant pings that are going on up to the Google/YouTube network, to make sure that if there is a problem, it's not on my end. And I can see already that the Web Presenter 4K is already struggling. It's buffered at 100% and it's been kind of pegged there for a bit. I'm not even streaming at that high of a bit rate. So yeah, definitely something strange going on there. The Web Presenter HD is doing okay so far. It's currently buffering at just 3%, but it's only streaming at about 6 megabits, so not a lot there. The Web Presenter 4K I've got set for a preset for 10 to 20 megabit. And my connection that I have here is gigabit symmetrical. I get gigabit speeds all the time. It's normal, so it should be able to handle what's currently an 18 megabit stream. And this mainstream I'm doing at 32 megabit, so a lot more bandwidth being required for the mainstream than for that Web Presenter 4K. But anyway, so the links to those 2 alternate streams are in the description for the mainstream. So anyway, if you want to just kind of see what's going on with that, you can check into one of those and see what's going on there. You should have audio and a constant view of this program feed from the switcher available there as well. So you can see both what's going on as well as what's happening with the web presenters. So anyway, okay, let's just jump into questions here. All right, first one from Das Meisterling. Are you happy with the 2ME switcher panel, or are you wish to use the X keys panel? So he's talking about this panel right back here. This is the 2ME advanced panel from Blackmagic Design. I love this thing. This thing is awesome. This thing is amazing. It makes controlling my switcher a lot easier. It works a lot better. The X keys works really well, especially for something that's so small, such a compact space. But having dedicated buttons for everything and a T-bar and menus and other things like that, it can't be beat. So I always wanted this. The only reason I didn't get it is because it's so expensive. This thing is about $6,300. It's not inexpensive whatsoever. So I just waited until I had other things. Most of my other higher priorities taken care of before I got this thing. I've had this thing for coming up on a year. I think I got it March last year, and here we are near the end of February, so coming up on a year since I got this thing. And I've used it for a whole lot of events, and it's worked really, really well. I'm so glad I got the 2ME instead of trying to make the 1ME work. 1ME, when I've used it lots of times, it's just always felt so limiting, so confining. And so I'm glad I got the 2ME version. The 4ME would be nice, but I don't have a 4ME switcher just yet, so it would kind of be overkill. And that thing's huge. It wouldn't even fit on this desk. It's enormous. So the 2ME is probably where we're gonna stay for the time being. So, but yes, I'm certainly glad that I've got that. All right, so next question. Same viewer. How do you deal with the issue that the Hyperdex are no longer connected to the ATEM switcher after a shutdown? It just says just IP stays, but does not reconnect. So I know exactly what issue you're talking about. So there's an issue with, I'm not sure exactly where it lies, but the ATEM switcher not being able to connect to a Hyperdeck after you power cycle the ATEM switcher. So what I've done for that, I've never figured out an automated way to do this, but what I will do is I go into the setup on the ATEM software control software and just temporarily change the IP address to something else, apply that, and then change it back to the IP of the Hyperdeck, and then it's able to reconnect. But it's a bug in the software. It's to the best of my knowledge, it still has not been fixed. It's still occurring, still happening. But it doesn't happen every time. I've seen a lot of times where I power everything on and it just works. So it's kind of one of those intermittent sort of deals. I think it probably helps to have the Hyperdex booted before you boot the ATEM, but nevertheless, if it was working properly, it would reconnect even if the Hyperdex were offline when the ATEM was booted. So yeah, just temporarily change the IP address to something else, anything else, and then change it back, and you should be okay. Okay, all right, next question. Gregors, I'm not even going to try to say your last name there. Out of curiosity, are the NUCs you're using Win 11 eligible? So I've got a whole wide variety of the Intel NUCs. I'll just go through the list here. So I have 5 of the 4th gen. I have 2 6th gen, 1 7th gen, 2 8th gen, 2 11th gen, 2 12th gen, and I have a mini PC that's based on the NUC, but it's not an Intel machine. It's based on the 13th gen. I should probably talk about that at some point on the video on channel. But so of those, my original 4th gen are not. They can't run. Well, they're not supposed to run Windows 11. You can force it. You can make it run, but it's not necessarily recommended. At some point, Microsoft's going to deprecate that and say, hey, we're not going to support this. So I wouldn't recommend it. If anything that's 8th generation or newer is going to be supported under Windows 11. I personally have been somewhat reluctant to move to Windows 11. I find that there's a lot of more advanced features that I use in Windows that they've kind of hidden and are difficult to get to, particularly, like, for example, if you need to set 2 IP addresses on a single computer. They've really buried that in Windows 11. It's quite hard to find, and it seems like they intentionally make that difficult to get to. But for general users, Windows 11 is fairly nice. It's a lot cleaner, a much cleaner design than Windows 10. But for me personally, like my daily driver PC, I'm still on Windows 10, and I don't plan on moving to Windows 11 until Microsoft walks away from it, which allegedly is going to be next year. And for the computers I have in here in the trailer, they're almost all also on Windows 10 still as well. For advanced users, I think Windows 10 is still a little bit more suited than Windows 11, but I can navigate in Windows 11 just fine. I mean, my laptops are all on Windows 11. I do have a few of my NUCs, or NUCs, however you want to say that. They're on Windows 11 and they've worked just fine. So no big issue there. All right, I'm gonna just do a quick change here of the Web Presenter 4K. It's struggling at this setting where I have 8 to 24 megabit. So I'm just gonna use the medium-high setting that I have, which is 4 to 16 megabit, and see if that actually is able to recover. But pretty clearly, it's not keeping up. I've kind of been watching it. I've had it going for a while before I started the stream. It seems like anytime it tries to stream anything more than about 10 megabit, it struggles. And by the way, this problem only seems to happen with YouTube. It seems to do fine going anywhere else. Even Twitch. Even a proxy to YouTube. So if you send a video to a proxy server and then forward it on to YouTube, that seems okay. It's just when you go direct to YouTube, you get this caching buffering problem, and they still have not fixed it to this day, despite several firmware updates since we found this out. And I'm very much not the only one that's having it. You go online, Facebook groups, and even the Blackmagic forums themselves. It's pretty common. Anyway, that's not the purpose of this stream. So, all right, moving on. Next question. Let's see. Get back to my window here. All right, we got a few people saying hi. I'll just pop those messages up here real quick. Cujo, Digital Emotion, a member of the channel. Thank you very much. Smith. All right. Hello, everyone, from Rob Fisher. And, okay. All right. Recon Salson. I'm not sure how you say that. So, what microphones do you recommend for your Sony PC one? And there's another message clarifying that that's the PTZ 150, I assume. So, you got to decide what microphone to get based on what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be shooting. So, yeah, let me know a little bit more about what you intend to do with it, and then I'll be able to make a better recommendation. Whether you're talking like handheld or shotgun or lavalier or and what use case you're going to be working with. So yeah, right. Web Presenter seems not to have started. I clicked the start button on both of them. Yeah, they both say they're going. So if they're not working, then that's something with the Web Presenter, unfortunately. I did test them ahead of time, and the Web Presenter 4K, it's cached at 100%, but it does dip down to like 98 occasionally. Like right now, it's 98. Anyway, real problem. All right, okay, questions. All right, let's clear that one. Okay, next question. Other streams are waiting. Interesting. No, they're not auto start. They both say they're live. Yeah. Yeah, they both say they're live. Don't know what's going on there, folks. Yeah, YouTube says they're live. But it also says viewers waiting. Interesting. Refresh the page. I'm not going to spend much time worrying about this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And it says excellent connection. And the Web Presenter 4K still says viewers waiting. I'll try stopping and restarting it just to see if that helps. I've had almost nothing but problems with Blackmagic streaming stuff. That's kind of why I'm not using it for my mainstream. Okay, so I've turned off the Web Presenter 4K for right now. I'm going to let the buffer clear up, and then I'll try streaming again. But the HD stream should be going. It says it is anyway. Okay. All right. Back to questions. Let's see. Do you plan on having an NDI kit ready to go for live events like PTZ and the vMix or so? I don't have any plans to right now. I've used, since the last time I did one of these Q&As, I have used NDI for a few things. And I mean, I understand the benefits there. I understand why people like it. But for me personally, I don't see a lot of use cases where it makes a lot of sense. I have other solutions that work better. So, and that's kind of what it boils down to. I have, you know, when I'm doing live events, I use fiber cables going to the cameras into my ATEM switchers, and that works great. And it's uncompressed, and there's no latency, and I don't have to pay more for a device that has that requires an NDI license. So I'm actually better off by not using NDI, but I get it. You know, there's a lot of situations like PTZ cameras where NDI makes a lot of sense, or pulling graphics out of a computer where NDI can make a lot of sense. I will say though that NDI can bring a computer that's not well equipped to its knees. And if you're doing encoding from that computer, I had a situation recently where I accidentally left the NDI encoder on in Premiere when I was editing, and Premiere became basically unusable while that was going on, and I didn't realize that had happened. It took me a while to figure out what the problem was, but yeah, once I turned NDI back off again, it was editing video again just fine. So NDI can add a lot of overhead if you're doing it from a computer. But like I say, in terms of someone that's using PTZ cameras and you're doing switching on a computer where NDI you basically get for free, sure, yeah, it can work really well, but I don't work that way. I work using hardware switchers. I work using cameras that have SDI outputs. I have fiber connections that I can run to everything, and so NDI doesn't necessarily have a real place in my setup. And especially at the scale of some of the events that I work, you know, it's not that uncommon for me to work an event where I've got 10, 12, 13, 14 video sources going on, and a gigabit network couldn't handle all those on NDI. It's too much data for a gigabit network. So there's a lot of limitations there that I'd rather not deal with. I would rather have direct connections over fiber with the zero latency and no compression and whatnot. So NDI just doesn't necessarily make sense for my particular situation, but I recognize that there are a lot of people out there who use it, who like it, who it works well for. I'm just not among them today. So yeah, I don't necessarily have anything against it, but it's just not the right thing for my workflow. So long answer for a short question. All right, let's see. How are you liking your Blackmagic Micro Studio camera? I have not got the new one just yet. I still have the older one. In fact, if I cut to this shot, this the one that shoots down at here on my desk, that is one of the Blackmagic Studio cameras. If you notice, the colors on that are very different. Let me just do a dissolve between these two cameras, and that's despite me spending a lot of time trying to make it match with my Sony camera that I use here for the main camera in here. And that's one of the big things that's been holding me back from using the Blackmagic cameras more than I do. It's like I just can't make them match my Sonys. No matter how much effort I put into it, the colors never match. So you cut back and forth between them, and it's obviously something very different. But so I do intend to pick up one of the brand new, well, I guess new as of last summer anyway. So it's one of the new Micro Studio cameras for testing. Maybe even just replace the one that's in here. To see how much better it is. Like the old one was absolutely terrible in low light. In order for me to even get this exposure to work, I have to put a f1.4 lens on the thing, which means that the focus is super shallow. And if you watch the videos here on the channel, you may have noticed that if I hold something up above the desk, it's out of focus. Or something sitting on the desk might still be in focus at that point in time. So very shallow depth of field, but I have to open up the aperture that much in order to get a usable image out of that camera. The new one is, from what I hear, much better, and it should be. They actually use the same sensor in that they use in the Studio Camera 4K, which does okay in low light. So it should be a much better camera. The new Micro Studio camera also has some cool controls on it. Lets you control it over a network, which none of the other cameras have had to date. I think it's coming, but none of the other cameras have offered that to date. So if you want to be able to control the camera from a piece of software, that's going to be possible with that camera, which means you could do something like Companion or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, long story short, I don't have one yet. I do plan to get one. I have other things that are higher priority, so it might be just a bit. So, all right, Gwen Park asking, do you have a preferred encoder? Sort of. For someone who's wanting a hardware encoder, which is by far the way that I recommend somebody go, I would say go with either one of the LiveView units, or hate to make this recommendation because they've gotten expensive, but it's one of the Hyperdex Prism encoders. They're over $3,000 now. Their older video line has been discontinued, but those are going to work pretty well. I hear that the Epiphan 1 works fairly well. There are multiple models that they work fairly well. So that's an option as well. The one thing I would say to stay away from for sure is any of the kind of generic Chinese products that you see kind of all over Amazon or eBay or AliExpress or whatever. They're awful. I bought a couple to try and test them, and I was going to even do a video about them here on the channel, but it was so bad I just gave up and said, no, it's not even worth my time. It's not worth putting any effort into this whatsoever. But they are absolutely awful, so don't bother with those. The web presenter products I don't trust, and as we've seen here on the stream today, some issues going on there. I've had nothing but trouble with those, and I'm not alone. You see people talk about that in online forums, discussion forums all the time. So hopefully they get that fixed at some point, but as of right now, I just would not rely on them for an event that I'm being paid for. Okay, what XLR mic for your Sony PTZ 150 or any Sony camera with XLR? But again, I need to know kind of what your use case is, what you're going to be doing with it, what your intentions are. So, all right, I've noticed I get intermittent flashing on my. I guess that's probably going to be ATEM. That's probably either a problem with the input that you're on, or the cable, or maybe just a cable length limitation. If you're on HDMI, I would definitely try a shorter cable, higher quality cable. If you're on SDI, same thing, swap it out for a different cable. But most likely that means that you've got an intermittent connection there. So it's almost good enough to work and be stable, but not quite. So yeah, I would try an alternate cable on that for sure. All right, long time no see. Yes, it has been a while. It's been too long. Yeah, we'll just say I've been meaning to. I just haven't gotten around to streaming for a bit. How's the symmetrics working out for comms? Or are you using it for other things besides comms? I have not used the thing I demoed in the video a number of weeks ago for a big event yet. I have not had any events where I needed the trailer, so I've not really put it to the test, but I know it's going to be amazing. I mean, I've done enough testing with it to know that, hey, this thing's going to be awesome. So I know for sure it's going to be a great solution. I have had a couple of events where I've used one of the Tessera Forte units for comms, and it's worked really well. It took me a while to get everything tweaked at the very beginning to make sure that all the levels were set right. I had everything routed properly. So lesson learned that I need to do more preparation ahead of time, but the way that once I had it up and going, it was just absolutely amazing. And I loved being able to hear the program audio in my headphones as I was directing and be able to talk to the crew and know that they could always hear me. That was pretty awesome. So I've still got more development to do along those lines. I need to program my Stream Deck stuff with Companion for all of that, and so there's still work left to be done. But I know it's going to be amazing. And I don't have specific use cases where I'm going to be using it besides comms, but I can see a lot of potential there. So like the noise reduction, noise removal, and echo cancellation. Those features could be really useful in a live stream as well. So I'm pretty excited about being able to have that capability here in the trailer. So I will be adding probably additional DSPs like that just for auxiliary processing of things that my mixer can't do, or things that I want to offload from the mixer, or even use that in place of a mixer for certain events where I want to keep the amount of equipment to a minimum. Use one of those symmetrics units instead of a mixer. So yeah, super happy with the way that's going. So all right, how to tie X and Y for 2ME switcher. X and Y meaning what? Please clarify that a little bit there. All right. All right. Hello from Chechnya. All right. Need more tech videos like LTT. I assume you mean like IT type stuff. I will be doing a few more of those things than I've done in the past. Those have proven to be quite popular. The videos that I did on VLANs have been tremendously popular, even though it's been quite a while since I released those. Those are actually doing the best of anything on my channel at the moment. I will be doing another one related to VLANs here before too long. It seems like everybody who watches the other VLAN videos that are already there ask the same questions, and so it's probably justifies spending a little more time on that. But I could do more of the IT related stuff. Although I did the video on IP networking, I put a ton of effort into that, even paid a video editor, and nobody watched it. So it's one of those things. Yeah, it's like, it seems like always the videos that I put the most effort into are the ones that nobody watches. So yeah, who knows what's going on. The last one I did about the intercom, that was something I threw together last minute, but it was really popular, so who knows. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for your amazing videos. Really helped us out with a ton with our trailer. Glad to help out, and glad you have a trailer. The trailers are awesome to have, and yeah, glad that that's working out for you. Let's see. How would you achieve tally with the second ME? Well, that's an issue that Blackmagic has with their stuff. So essentially, the problem with tally on the second ME is that Blackmagic assumes that you're not sending the second ME out on its own to anything, and therefore tally doesn't matter on the second ME. So you can get tally information from the second ME on their switcher, but the trick is you have to make sure that that second ME source is live on your first ME. So one thing you can actually do is put that on an upstream key, set it so it's completely transparent, and then turn that on, and then anytime a camera that's on 2ME, the second ME, is live, then the tally will go live for that particular camera, but it's going to be intermixed with what's going on with ME1. So it's not a great solution. If you want to do something else, you could probably put together something using Companion or your own software to read that tally information coming off the ATEM one way or another, and then drive a tally that way. I'm curious if any of the third-party tally systems that are out there can support the second ME. I'm kind of guessing they probably don't, but it would be interesting to look into that a little bit more. I don't have any of those to test myself, but it would be entirely possible for somebody to create their own tally solution for the second ME on the ATEM switchers. So, yeah. Okay. I've noticed after a few hours of concert production, I get intermittent black flashing on my ATEM 2ME from the SDI channels. I'm running 300-foot SDI cables. Could it be maxing out the length? Very much so, yeah. So you're right at that edge where even high-quality cables might not even work any longer. So I don't think I would be tempted to use SDI at 300 feet. That's really far. Because that's 100 meters basically that SDI is rated for. So assuming you have the best cable quality possible, you're still pushing it a little bit. So I would switch to fiber if you're having to run that far, or figure out a way to do shorter cables, one of the two. But I don't think I would be doing 300-foot SDI runs and trust those at all. So Brian asking, what language do you write in? So referring to my software development. So my day-to-day job, I'm a software contractor. I'm not employed by anybody else, but I have two main contracts that I've been working on for several years now, and in both of those they're C#, they're Windows desktop apps with a SQL Server database. In both cases, one's WPF, the other one is WinForms, but that's where I spend the bulk of my time. But I also have the Crew Access website that I've created, and I continue to maintain and develop and improve. That's all written in PHP, and of course there's HTML and JavaScript and CSS and all those things associated with that as well. And backing those up, I have a MySQL server. And I'm not a big MySQL fan, but I don't want to take the time to move it to Microsoft SQL Server, which by the way is a far, far, far better product. And they even have a free version that would work. But so anyways, that's what I work on kind of on the daily. But it varies, I worked for a long time in Delphi. I spent more than 20 years working in Delphi. Done some stuff in Visual Basic here and there. Not much other C other than C#. Done a little bit of Python. Not much. A little bit of Python here and there. Lua. Assembly. Kind of all over the map. I've been doing software for, let's see, do the math, 47 years. Yeah. It's hard to believe that. But I've been doing software development for 47 years. So I've worked on a lot of different languages on a lot of different platforms. In over a long period of time. And I've been doing professional contract software development now for, 40 years. Contract development now for 40 years. So, yeah, worked in a lot of different environments, a lot of different industries. So, not a lot of industries I haven't worked in at this point. So, yeah. FYI, auxiliary streams haven't started for the public yet. They say they are. I don't know what's going on with that. Perhaps it's a problem with the YouTube issue rather than the web presenter. Yeah, it must be, because, YouTube even says that the streams are live. So, I don't know what to tell you. It says there's a few people watching. Alright, okay, well, moving on. How is your business structured? Just right now it's a sole proprietorship. I have not taken the time to do an LLC. I will at some point. I just haven't done it yet. So, alrighty. Hey, Paul. How's it going? Good to see you. Paul's a good friend of mine. Known Paul for 25 years almost. Close to. Yeah. Hi from Sweden. I noticed that everybody from that area of the world spells my name with an extra H on there. It must be the way that the G is pronounced. Not there. Okay. Which switcher are you using for the stream? Is it 4K switcher or your 4K stream is through the Web Presenter 4K? So I'm using the same switcher that I've had in my trailer here now for 7 years. The ATEM 2ME Production Studio 4K. And I've had that switch for a very long time, and I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to make plans to swap it out and get something a little bit newer. It still works great. It's one of the products from Blackmagic that was just super reliable. It has been super reliable. I've not had any problems with it in and of itself the entire time I've had it. But some of the newer stuff, like some of the constellations, have been a little bit more flaky. So I've been a little bit hesitant. But I am getting to the point where I need additional inputs and I need more outputs. So I could use the 3rd and 4th ME. And so I'm looking at the Constellation 4K 4ME switcher. That's going to be my next upgrade here in the trailer. But I'm not in a huge hurry to do it because what I got is still working, and it's one of those things that I wouldn't really see a huge benefit from, and take a whole lot of time to rewire everything and a lot of money. When I do that, I also want to swap my two 40x40 video hubs that I have in here out with a single 80x80. So talking about dropping $20,000 on equipment for very little perceptible change or improvement. So not in a hurry, but it's going to happen at some point. So yeah. So but the plan is basically to take the 2ME production studio 4K that I have here and then use that in my basement studio, and so I can actually live stream out of that. You guys noticed that I haven't done anything in my basement studio for a while. It's not because the studio isn't working, it isn't done, it's been super nice to have, but at the same time I hate editing. And so I like to live switch all the videos that I do, and I don't have a 4K switcher down there. So that's the plan. Take the 4K switcher that's here in the trailer, put that in my basement studio, and then to put a Constellation 4K here in the trailer. So that's the eventual plan. Just haven't gotten around to doing that just yet. So. All right. In production, how useful do you, the camera operators, find the preview tally from the ATEM if they have it? Do the operators miss it when it's not available? So I'd actually do something a little bit different than that. I don't send, I don't send them preview tally. So what I send my camera operators typically, especially if I'm using my trailer, is a 2x2 view. It's first 3 cameras and then program. And so on their monitor on their cameras, that's what they see. They see the first 3 cameras plus program. That's at least for the first 4 cameras. Additional cameras, I send them program, so they can use their camera converter, one of these guys. There's a button on here, the program button, first one right here. You press that and that toggles between viewing the program feed and viewing your local camera feed on your monitor. And so the camera operators have the option to either see their local camera or the quad view. And most of the time they do the quad view because that allows them to frame a different shot than what the other camera operators are getting. It's tremendously helpful for me as a director, that I don't have to just say, hey, everybody, you all got the same shot, 1 go wide, 2 go tight, or whatever. Like, they kind of can monitor that on their own, and it saves me a lot of time and effort as a technical director, giving them that option. And they also do get the green preview box on that quad view, but they don't get a tally preview otherwise. So, but it's super useful to have the camera operators have that option to see what's going on with what the next shot's going to be. Okay. Okay, 4K started. Yeah. All right. It's a shotgun mic, not handheld, on the side of the camera that uses XLR input. So you're talking about one of the Sony microphones. The Sony ones are okay. If you want something good, you can get the Sennheiser. Why can't I remember the model number? It's $1,000. The 417. I forget the exact model number. The one that everybody's got. That one works pretty well. You will have to do something to increase its diameter for it to fit in the Sony cameras, but that would work pretty well. So yeah. All right, our fiber cable is not sensitive. How do you ensure, especially at events, that these cables are protected? So I buy armored cables, and so the way that they're built, they've got the inner strand of glass that's used to do the signal, and it's got some cladding around that, and then a protective sleeve, I believe made of Kevlar, and then on the outside of that, it's got a metal spiral. It's actually fairly heavy duty, and then outside of that, it's got the outer protective polyurethane or whatever it is they use for the outer sleeve, and that works pretty well. That protects the cable pretty well. I mean, I have had some destroyed, but it's not very often. In most of the situations where I've had one of those get damaged, other types of cables would have been just as damaged as well. So it's never been a deal breaker for me. But just in case, I always bring extras. I always have an extra. I did an event 2 weeks ago where overnight the cleaning crew came through, and their big, huge vacuum thing that somebody rides on sucked up one of the fiber cables and just destroyed it. It was the worst thing I'd ever seen. But it wouldn't have mattered what cable it was. Any cable that they would have run over would have been destroyed in that situation. So, but fortunately, I always have extras. They're inexpensive enough. They're cheap enough. The fiber cables that I use, even though they're armored, are about $1 per meter. So, a 100-meter cable is less than $100. If it gets damaged, I just throw it away and get another one. So, yeah, I consider them disposable. You can't get a proper high-quality SDI 100-meter cable for $100, let alone two for the return signal. So, yeah, the fiber is actually cheaper. Now, the part that's not are the fiber converters that you're using on the two ends, the sending and receiving end of the signal path there. So, but the fiber is awesome. You can literally go miles with it. I have sent signals for miles with it, and it works just fine. So, yeah. Okay, I find NDI useful when running along with Dante. Less cables to run. Netgear 24 switches make it all easy to set up too. Yeah, so when you've got AV rated switches like the Netgear 2450, that makes all that stuff work better. But NDI it doesn't scale super well. If you're starting to do more than 5-6 feeds, then you kind of start to run into situations where you're going to saturate a gigabit network, and you're getting to the point where you kind of have to go 10 gig at that point. So anyway, and I understand NDI can work really well for a lot of different situations. It works well for a lot of people. My situation, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's why I've not really adopted it. So, all right. Jim asking, are you going to go to NAB this year? I'm planning on. I have not made specific plans, but yes, I am planning on being there. It's only a 5-hour drive, less than 5-hour drive from where I live. So it's super easy to just hop on down to Las Vegas and pop in and see what's going on. So, yeah. If you had the opportunity to trade in your Sony cameras setup for something else of your choice, I would still go with the same ones, honestly. The cameras that I use, the Sony camcorder style cameras, I have been absolutely perfect for the types of events that I produce. I understand that they're not the right camera for every type of situation. I would never want to shoot a movie with one. They're not made for that. But for live events where you need to have a lot of flexibility in terms of your focal length, how much you zoom in and out, being able to handle a wide variety of lighting conditions, they're hard to beat. And because camcorders have traditionally had kind of a bad reputation because people associate that word with consumer products that are, generally kind of awful. But you get into a professional camcorder and they are pretty amazing. I'm not going to say that my Z150s are producing a better image than like a Blackmagic Ursa even, or an Arri Alexa, or even a Blackmagic Cinema camera. They're different. They're made for different things, and I found that those sorts of cameras just don't function well in the sorts of environments where I shoot. So I don't judge anybody for using those, but at the same time, they don't work for my workflow, and so I appreciate when people don't judge me for making that decision. But having used those cameras now for 8 years, it's hard to believe. I wouldn't trade them for anything other than a replacement from Sony, an upgrade from Sony. The equivalent cameras from other manufacturers are just more of the same. So Panasonic makes some, JVC makes some. I think Canon has a 1-inch sensor camera as well. It's just basically the same thing. So it wouldn't be an upgrade. It would just be a cross grade going from one manufacturer to another. So anyway, but I've loved my Sony cameras. There are some weird quirks about them that I would like to see fixed in the replacement. But if somebody took them away or they got stolen or whatever, I'd buy the same thing to replace them today. In fact, I just bought 2 more of them within the last few months to add to my arsenal. So yeah. Okay, the Ursa Broadcast GT just got that network control last week. Yeah, I did see that announcement. I saw that product release. So yeah. Andrew saying I used 4-core tactical fiber, well protected. Yes, yeah. So when you get into those multi-core fiber cables, they tend to be better protected than the single connection ones. So Magewell Ultra Encode AIO is very nice. I've not used one personally, but I have heard other people say the same thing. So, are you able to give a brief overview of your trunk cable setup and the racks that you have in the venue, how it connects to your trailer? Looking at a solution for my church. I've covered that pretty extensively here on the channel already, but so what I have. Actually, just grab one end of it here. It'll cooperate. All right, switch to overhead camera here, and let's get rid of the. There we go. All right, so this is my tactical fiber cable. So this is a cable that I got from fs.com. It's IP67 rated. That's how they refer to it. But you open this up, and inside here is an MTP24 connector. So this little connector right here has 24 fiber strands in it, believe it or not. There are 24 signals that are running inside this cable. And so I run this cable from my trailer inside of a venue, and that goes into a breakout box that just breaks that out into 12 12 pairs of optical connectors, LC connectors. And so I literally just plug the LC connector cables in from there into the cameras. There's no processing going on there. It's just literally converting from an MTP connector to those individual LC connectors. So nothing fancy, but it works really well. On the camera end, I use these camera converters that I mentioned, ATEM camera converter. Depending on who you ask at Blackmagic, these may or may not have been discontinued. You can still get them, no problem, but if you ask some people, they say they don't make them anymore. I don't know what's going on with that. Then on the opposite end here in the trailer, I have, and in my flight pack actually, I have the ATEM Camera Converter 2 product, and that breaks out that signals for 4 cameras. So you get 4 cameras in, and then return feeds for 4 cameras, and those also provide intercom capability as well. So intercom on these two. So connections on here to plug in a headset like a computer. Yeah, just go that overhead again. So headset, 3.5 millimeter, and there's your fiber connection right there, and your SDI in, SDI out, HDMI in, HDMI out. So these accommodate a wide variety of cameras because they can do SDI or HDMI as well as monitors, because it has both SDI and HDMI simultaneously. So that's essentially what my fiber system is all about. So those are the products that I use. It's frustrating to me that Blackmagic has no 4K versions of this, but everything else in that entire ecosystem does support 4K. My entire trailer is 4K ready, and I can't do 4K easily because these camera converters don't have a 4K version. So anyway, but that's the gist of it. So but again, if you want more detail, I have numerous videos here on the channel covering that. All right. How do you use any PGC camera in your live production? I haven't for a while. I mean, I still have my Sony SRG 300 SEs that I bought years ago. I've kind of moved away from those things because the image quality on them is just not good. I can improve it a little bit by adding some LUTs, but it's still just not that good. Outdoors, they're okay. So if I'm shooting an outdoor event, yeah, I'll still use them. But once you bring them indoors, they get soft and noisy, and the color doesn't match super well with my other Sony cameras. I've been wanting to get one of the BRC X1000s from Sony because that actually has the same sensor and optics in it that my SRG, or so my PTZ. Sorry, try that again. And my PXW Z150s actually have in them, so I know those cameras would match, but they're also $10,000 a piece, and so it would take the right event for me to make an investment into those. But same time, I've also found that PTZs don't necessarily save me anything when I use them. I found that the only time that they necessarily make sense is when I need to place a camera somewhere where I can't put an operator, because when you have a PTZ, you still probably need to have somebody operating it. And so I still have the same size crew that I always did. Only those cameras can be a little bit more work to set up, get working properly than a camera on a tripod, a standard camera on a tripod. So bottom line is I don't use them much anymore. Still pull them out occasionally, but for the most part they've kind of fallen by the wayside. and I have other solutions that I use, especially since I have more of the Sony cameras. I have 9 of those Sony cameras now that are in that camcorder lineup, and so I'm able to cover a lot of events with those and have consistent look across all of them pretty well. So, all right. Hey, you gonna bring any BTS videos like you used to on the channel, or you won't need to be a member for? So I still produce those whenever I can, but it's been a while since I've done an event where I've been able to do that, or I have not edited them yet. So I did a huge event with ski jumping competition last July. I know it's going to sound funny, ski jumping in July, but Utah Olympic Park, where we shoot those, they're equipped to shoot to do ski jumping year round, and we did a lot of behind the scenes stuff. We actually did interviews of crew members and things like that, but it hasn't been edited yet, so I haven't been able to post that. But generally speaking, though, those behind the scenes videos are going to be limited to members and Patreon supporters of the channel. That's one of those perks that you get for being a member. So I will do better about doing more perks. I've gotten kind of distracted with other things, but I still fully intend to keep doing proper perks for those who are paying members of the channel. Okay, all right. Which online hosting service would be best and affordable for a SRT relay server? I don't have an answer for that. Maybe someone else in the chat can speak up, because I really don't know. Hey Doug, what do you think about Remi broadcast? Okay, so I mean, there's some situations where it makes sense, and for those who are not familiar with what that means, it's basically where you're producing a broadcast remotely. And that can come in any number of different flavors, from something as simple as your commentator being at home or whatever, but you could also have a technical director. In some cases, if you wanted to get fancy, you could even do remote camera operators using a PTZ, although I would not recommend that. There's too much latency for that to work really well. But basically, in any sort of production where you've got people that are working remotely. So, again, there are some situations where that can work. That ski jump thing that I was just mentioning a moment ago, our commentator was remote. If somebody who used to work for all the big networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, ESPN, still the commentator for all of them, we joined in with him over Zoom, and he did all his commentary for us over Zoom, and that actually worked really well. And we were happy with that, and he didn't have to fly to be with us on site there. So there are situations where it can make a lot of sense, where a job can be done remotely, and that can be pretty cool. If you want to do full Remi, where you basically just have cameras on site and everything else takes place somewhere else, that can work, and there are places that are doing it, but that requires an awful lot of bandwidth in order to do that properly, and not just bandwidth, but low latency internet connection, so that any cameras that need to be controlled, you're able to do so. If you're using like PTZs, it can be controlled, and there's not too much delay between like moving the joystick and the camera responding. There's nothing worse than trying to remotely control a camera when you've got high latency. It's the worst. It just doesn't work very well. But if somebody's in a situation where, like a university, when they've got gobs and gobs of dedicated internet connection bandwidth to make that work, or even dedicated, not even over the internet, then it can make a lot of sense. But I've found that in most situations, it's still better to have a crew on site doing the work. You just get a better result, and it's simpler. You've got less of that time spent getting those remote connections set up and working properly. So yeah, so short answer is some situations it works, but there's a lot that don't. Okay, a couple people saying hello from Brazil and India. Will you be able to take online seminars in our tech communities? I see. Do you mean giving online seminars? I've considered it, but I've never considered myself a great teacher, so it's just not something that I've really thought much about. I mean, I do okay on this channel, but that's because if I screw it up, I can do another take. There's always the editing that takes place between the time I shoot something and the time it actually goes out where people can see it. So, all right, interesting to see both HD and 4K web presenter monitoring. Both showed buffer refresh at similar times. So something network-wise is happening to both. Well, it's on the same network that I'm streaming on OBS, and OBS I'm doing a whole lot more bandwidth. So OBS I'm streaming at 32 megabit, and currently the HD, represented HD is doing just a little under 6 megabit, and the 4K is doing a little under 12. So, yeah. Based on the research I've done on this, it seems that these Blackmagic devices overreact to dropped packets in flow between here and YouTube. Like I say, I've only seen this issue with YouTube. It has not affected anything else. And based on what I can tell, it's when packets are lost within Google's network. They just the web presenter and ATEMs, and now the studio cameras that have the streaming capability. They all sort of overreact every time that there's dropped packets. So, and that's why I put up the ping, continuous pings on those streams, so you guys can actually see if there are any packets that are being dropped when we're seeing buffering issues. So anyway, yeah, it's interesting to see what's happening there. All right, 83 watchers and only 15 likes. Yeah, come on, guys, like the video. That's how we get YouTube to recommend it to other people, so that we can get more viewers in here. All right. Okay. Let's see. I have a web presenter for gaming and also a roadcaster, and want the mic and audio from Discord to get piped into the web presenter. Should I get an audio to SDI converter or software? So audio to SDI converter is one solution. I would probably say go with just bring it into an ATEM, like an ATEM Mini or something like that, and that you'll have the ability to do switching and other sorts of stuff there as well. Those have audio inputs on them. That would be my recommended solution. You can do it with the audio to SDI converter, but you need to amplify that audio, that mic signal from the mic up to line level. You can't take a line level signal and plug it into that SDI converter. It has to go through a mixer or at least a mic preamp. But I would recommend getting some sort of mixer, and then also having an ATEM. That's going to give you the best options in terms of what to do with the audio and how to present it, or how to process it in order to get something. Okay, looks like I think I already answered that one. How do you rate the Blackmagic Television Studio 4K8? I haven't used the 4K version of that one. I should probably request one from Blackmagic to try it out. I did spend a couple of weeks with it's the HD ISO version of that one, and I have mixed feelings. I shot a video reviewing it, and I've never published it, because when I went back and watched it, it was overly negative, and I decided that I didn't want to have a video that's so negative on my channel. Fundamentally, the switching portion of it works just like any other ATEM, but some of the other features that Blackmagic's really been touting didn't work very well, if I'm being honest. Like the streaming from the cameras, I only got that to work like one time in 10. Even over a local network. Actually, over a local network is much harder to get it going than it was to do it streaming over cellular. So that feature, I think, is kind of half-baked. It needs to be made more robust before I could use that. But the other one, the online synchronizing of files up to the cloud, that seems broken too. So I did their thing where you record the video, isolated camera feeds on the device, and then have that sync up to a cloud service. I tried with, I'm pretty sure it was Dropbox, and once my Dropbox account filled up, it stopped uploading, and it never. Then after I cleared space and made room for it, it never retried. There was nothing I could do to get it to retry. So there's definitely some issues with all of that, and I've not seen any software updates since I had those issues either. So I'm guessing there are probably still issues as well. At one point, was considering buying the 4K 8 for my studio, but I realized that I'm going to need more than 8 inputs, and so that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. But I still have a hard time understanding where those switchers make sense, because there seems like just about every situation, almost every event that I do, 8 inputs is not enough. And so those switchers, in my mind, don't make a lot of sense, especially at their price point. You know, if they were selling that thing for half the price that it is, then yeah, sure, yeah, go ahead and grab it. You know, it's fine. But when you're spending $3,000 to $4,000 on a switcher, you kind of expect that you're going to be getting more than 8 inputs on one of them. So once you start doing things like graphics, especially if you got an alpha channel, you're doing video playback, more than 2 or 3 cameras, 8 inputs is just not very many. So In terms of switching capability, they're fine, just not a lot of inputs, and I think some of those extra features that they've tried sort of bolted onto it are really buggy and need some more work before they should be relied upon. So, okay, let's see. What solution would you recommend for separate live streams from a remote location? Something based on SRT. I'm not sure what particular encoders I would say to use on that. It's not something I've really researched, but yeah, I've used SRT as a protocol to get video from one location to another. So that's, yeah. All right. From Trinidad and Tobago, have you ever used AV Matrix or Yellow Bricks fiber converter? Are you still on talkback fiber converters? I've used AV Matrix stuff, and it's been fine. Yellow Bricks is actually really nice stuff, and so if that's within your budget, I would absolutely say, yeah, go for it. Those things are awesome. All that stuff is great. So, you know, if that's what you're hoping to get, those are going to be great products for you. So, yeah, no hesitations recommending those whatsoever. Okay. It'd be interesting if BMD added CPU utilization to their monitoring display. Have you tried using SRT with YouTube at all? So the second part of that first. So my account has not been enabled for SRT yet, so I've not been able to test that. So I can't say whether that's any better or not. But yes, having CPU utilization might be kind of interesting. The thing is, these don't necessarily use CPUs in the traditional sense for processing, data processing. They use FPGAs, which are quite different than CPUs, and so I don't know how useful having a CPU utilization thing would actually be. All the video encoding is being done by an FPGA, so yeah, I don't know if it would actually be helpful or not. Okay, all right, VO software for all major UK TV channels and written in Delphi, brilliant language. Yeah, I still really like Delphi, but I think the guys behind it, the company behind it, they're overcharging for it. I would probably still use it. It wasn't going to cost me $4,000 to $5,000 to get a modern license for it. So yeah. All right, can I ask about Hyperdex Studio Mini, old model? What format on files are working for playback with alpha? I actually have a video about this here on the channel. Do ProRes 4444. If you're in the Adobe suite, they have a preset for it. I can't remember off the top of my head. You have to go back and watch. We'll go back to the videos that I did about doing stingers, because that's where I actually talked about how to produce those alpha channels. There's also one that I did late summer 2022, where I talked about how I had produced the videos for Stream Day. I forget what I called that video, but the same sort of thing. I actually walked through the steps of creating those alpha streams and playing them back on Hyperdex. So yeah, I've covered that pretty extensively here on the channel. So all right. My question was about tally indicators, not return video. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, tally. Yep. Does anyone utilize BMD 2110 converters over fiber? I have to ask that to the audience here, but I did purchase 3 of the 2110 converters for the purpose of testing them, becoming familiar with them, understanding how they work, how Blackmagic implementation of 2110 actually works, and then once I've done with them and shot a review, I turn around and resold them. So anybody who watches Aaron Parecki on his YouTube channel, he bought those from me immediately after I did my testing, so he's got them in his possession now. I presume he's going to be testing and installing those here before too long. But again, I've shot another video that I've shot but have not taken the time to edit. So Blackmagic 2110 implementation is fairly well done. It's got higher latency than I would have predicted. So under the best of circumstances, I couldn't get the latency down under about 3 frames, no matter what. Even using their internal, or using their sync source, I never get under 2 frames, under 3 frames. I think I maybe saw 2 frames once, but for what it is, IP2110 is actually pretty cool. The big problem with it is our IT infrastructure has not caught up with that. And so if you're doing an HD workflow where you can build out a 10 gig network, the 2110 stuff can work really well. But if you're someone like me who works in 4K, you're talking 25 or 100 gigabit switches in order to make that stuff work. And that's just outside my price range, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. But in terms of using it over fiber, fiber is just another type of connection, just like Ethernet. So the performance of fiber is going to be the same as it is going to be with Ethernet. So just you're getting additional distance capability with the fiber versus going with copper. So yeah. Hey, there's Petra. Say, hey, I can finally say hi to you live. How's it going, Petra? I haven't chatted in a while. I haven't seen you on our monthly Zoom meetings. So anyway, good to see you on the channel. 416, yes, thank you. That's Sennheiser 416. That's the microphone I was thinking of. And then Petra saying use the Rode NTG3. Those Rode NTG mics are actually pretty good too. All right. Are you interested in the SMPTE 2110 devices from Blackmagic, or don't you see use case for either? I think I just barely answered that. So NTI doesn't scale very well. I have sites with hundreds of NDI sources, hundreds. It costs tens of thousands more to do it via baseband, SDI, or fiber. The problem is when you send a lot of NDI signals over a single connection. So if you need to get them into a computer or something like that, and you got to have switches that have a lot of bandwidth. So yeah, and I hear the same thing from people who work at the high-end side of video production, where NDI just sort of breaks down and just doesn't work super well. So yeah. Would you say the Blackmagic 2110 IP converters with 3 SDI channels is budget-friendly alternative to fiber? Well, I could say stay tuned for my video, because that's one of the things that I talk about, but I'll just go ahead and spoil it now. It's not a suitable replacement. It's adding a lot of complication and additional cost compared to doing the same thing over fiber. So yeah, going fiber is actually cheaper and no latency, and you're not dealing with the expense of highly capable 10 gigabit switch has the required features in order to make that work. So there's another YouTube channel, I'm not even going to mention who it was, that bought some of them and used them kind of in that way, to use them as sort of a trunk to between where the switch was set up and where other things were happening. And that video was a huge disappointment because the person didn't understand what it was all about and just didn't go into enough detail for anybody to understand what was going on. So it's pretty disappointing that I don't think anybody's actually done a proper video on it. So yeah, I need to get mine edited and get it posted. I shot it clear back in December, and I still haven't done that. But what do you think about the fiber products from Middle Things? The Biddle Fiber. They've done some pretty cool stuff there. I'm pretty impressed with what they've done. So if someone's looking for that type of solution, I think that can make a lot of sense. It's more expensive than rolling your own, but if someone doesn't want to take the time to figure that out on your own, you can just get that product from them, and it should work really well. All right. Is it worth getting a Sony PXW Z90V or an HX or NX80? That's what I planned on getting. They're two different cameras. The Z90 is their higher end one. It has more capabilities than the NX80. Like, for example, the Z90 has SDI, whereas the NX80 is on HDMI only. Other than that, those two cameras are actually fairly similar. They're both 4K. They're both HDR. The Z90 can do live streaming to YouTube, but it sucks. I wouldn't plan on using that. I would use if you have a use case where you need to go direct from camera to a live stream, get a separate encoder. The one that's built into the camera is awful. So anyway, so yeah, I just got to decide based on which camera has the right capabilities for you. The NX80 has been discontinued though, so if you're buying one, it's either old stock or used. So take that into consideration. And the Z90 is still being manufactured. So, all right. Can you post the link to the fiber cables you mentioned, please? I can try to remember to do that, but if you go to my fiber videos here on the channel, I have links in those. And so if I forget to do something in this video, you can get those too. Have no problems with NDI, not a huge setup, 4 to 6 full NDI streams and 1 to 3 HX NDI streams going into my VM machine with a 10 gig NIC. But that's fine, but that's kind of where you're hitting the limit. You're not going to be able to do more than that over a gigabit network at least. And then beyond that, you're getting into a situation where you're maybe asking the computer to do too much processing on that. So, yeah. Canon CRN500 worked pretty well. Awesome. So, and then someone else here, Gwen, saying that use this CRN500. I've heard good things about those. I haven't used one myself yet, but I've heard they're good. PTZ is great for set shots, but forget using joystick camera operator. That's kind of been my experience as well. So, hopes for Blackmagic at NAB this year. I will save most of my comments for a future video. I like to do videos just ahead of NAB to say this is my wish list, but I still would like to see a less expensive 4K switcher from them. I want to see 4K versions of this. I want to see new, yeah, you can't really see it, but I want to see new versions of some of their rack mount monitors. Things I've brought up multiple times in the past. The list hasn't changed much from the video I did last year, honestly. So, hi Doug, ever considered Canon camcorders? Off and on, at any given time when I'm in the market to basically reset and purchase all new equipment, Canon has not had options that were appropriate for me. They do now, but when I was rebuilding my video business and switching from my old SD to HD stuff, when I retired from my last full-time job in 2016, Sony was the only game in town when it came to 4K camcorders. So that's what I went with, and I've stuck with it. I've been happy with them. I've liked them, and so, yeah. And you don't want to mix and match manufacturers, so you don't want to have some Sony and some Canon. You kind of got to go all the same manufacturer, not just the same manufacturer, but same product line across all your cameras. Otherwise, when you're cutting between them, you get really strange differences in color rendering, exposure, the way it handles rolling off highlights and the blacks, everything. So just very, very different. So, all right, Neil asking, how's the basement fit out going? I have been so busy with work-related stuff that I've not done much on that. As mentioned earlier here on the stream, the studio that's meant for shooting YouTube videos is essentially done, aside from needing a live switcher, and that's really waiting on me buying a new switcher for my trailer, and then taking the one that's here in my trailer and putting that in my basement. So just waiting on that, but everything else about the studio is done at this point. At least as far as it's done as it's going to be, until I finish out the rest of the basement with the recording studio and the home theater. I'm waiting to do carpet in the basement until I have the other rooms ready to go, so I can do everything all at once. Make sure I can get the same carpet for everything. I'd hate to get into a situation where I carpet one room and then find out that carpet's been discontinued and can't get it for the other rooms. So I'm waiting until I have everything else built out before I do that portion of it. But other than that, like, the studio's done. It's working. I've shot a bunch of stuff in it. It's been nice, super nice to have. I still haven't done my video tour. That's just me being lazy more than anything else. But yeah, it's basically ready to go. The only thing to keep in mind are decent 10 gig switches are expensive. Have looked at the BMD 2110. The Blackmagic 2110 stuff is very affordable for what it is, but if you want to have that work properly, you need a 10 gig switch that doesn't just support IGMP version 3, but also needs to natively support PTP version 2, and not just pass it on, but it needs to be PTP aware, which means that it modifies those timestamps. For PTP is Precision Time Protocol. It's a way of keeping things in sync. But a PTP aware switch will modify those timestamps based on how long it takes for those packets to travel through the switch. And if you don't have that, there's a lot of variability in the timing signals. And I did some testing on that when I had the equipment, and I definitely saw a fair amount of variation in those timing signals. The switch I was using did not have PTP version 2 support natively. So, yeah. Alrighty. What do you thought about ingest streaming? Is it better than having one gig stream encoder? Might need to have you elaborate just a little bit more on that. So, okay. How do you get your YouTube chats on your live stream? It's another question I get every single time I do one of these. So I'm using H2R graphics from John Barker over at the Here to Record YouTube channel. It connects into YouTube and it produces the graphics in real time. So I literally just have a list of questions here on my screen, and I click on them, and it takes them live. So yeah, it's doing it with a chroma key. I don't think he natively supports alpha keying. So anyway. Looking at basic power distros like the Lex Bento box, any thoughts or recommendations for these kinds of things? I always build my own, so I don't pay a lot of attention to what products are out there, but when I need one, I just build my own. So yeah, I don't know that I can necessarily comment on the products that are out there. All right, what do you recommend for dynamic lower thirds for live production where you have to edit and change during the event per presenter or whatever? It's another one of those things where I use my own solution rather than something off the shelf. So my traditional solution to that problem has been to use pre-rendered animations as backgrounds for those lower thirds, and then I have my own software that I wrote literally 20 years ago for producing graphics to do the text on top of those animated backgrounds. And that solution has worked really well. I don't have to render the lower thirds ahead of time. I can literally just type something in and hit one key, and it generates the graphic right there and then. And that's worked really well for me. I know a lot of people have been pretty happy with Pro Presenter. I know people have done stuff with vMix, and H2R graphics that I just mentioned. There are a ton of different solutions out there for that problem at every price point you can imagine. There's one that works online, people use a lot, and the name of it escapes me. It's fairly nice. Again, I'll remember the name right after I wrap the stream. If somebody else can think of it, and you can post it here in the chat. But there's an online solution that's been kind of popular the last little while. It works entirely on the web, and it does a nice job. So, all right. Apple Keynote makes lower thirds easy, but the ProRes 4444 export makes it work fine in OBS and with Ultra Studio, but Hyperdeck Mini doesn't play them. LT exported from Resolve Fusion work fine. Puzzling. The Hyperdecks are very picky about the files that they'll accept. They don't support every feature of ProRes or H.264 or H.265. They've gotten better, but they don't support all the features that are part of those protocols. And so if the encoder that you're using utilizes some aspect of a way of encoding those files that the Hyperdeck doesn't support, then it won't play them. So they're pretty picky. Yeah. Yeah, and then Andrew's saying H2R software. Yep. I can't justify a 4K workflow in terms of cost and bandwidth, especially given that the delivery destination is almost always adequate at HD resolution. Yeah, I'll say this. I've never had one of my clients, I have to take that back actually. I have had a client ask for 4K delivery at an event I did just a month ago. The client asked for 4K delivery. We switched in HD, but we shot in 4K on the cameras. Again, that has to do with the fact that there's no 4K version of this, so I didn't have an easy way to get 4K into the switcher. But we did shoot in 4K, and in post they go back and utilize that quite a bit, and we'll punch in, scale in, crop in on the video, and you still have quite usable footage when you shoot in 4K. When you do that, you shoot in HD. You're kind of limited in how much you can crop before you start to see the picture break up quite a bit. So for just live stuff, HD is fine. Nobody's going to complain that your video is HD instead of 4K. I do 4K here on my channel because I can, not because I think that it necessarily is warranted. Yeah. Anyway. Tried out HDR, couldn't quite figure it out quickly, but I've seen it can be done. So yeah, the thing you got to remember with most of these tools is they require you to do a little bit of preparation ahead of time. It's not just a click, hit one button, and you've got a graphic rendered. So they're getting closer to that, but yeah. So yeah. Okay, any experience with middle things, fiber bridges? I've not used one personally. I've seen the demos on YouTube. Tebow, the guy that they actually use for doing the videos, he's the Zebra Zone channel guy. He's demoed those, and I've talked to him, and nice guy. He knows what he's doing. He's very experienced. He's very knowledgeable, and so if he's recommending him, then I would have to recommend him too, because I trust his opinion on those things. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he's involved in the development of that, and so yeah. Any good setups for recording multi-channel audio with a program recorder? There's a lot of ways of doing that. Back in the day, I used to use ADAT HD24, so recorded 24 channels to hard drives. That was my go-to solution for a long time. These days, I just do it on a computer, use an audio interface, and record in software. Most of the time, the software that I use is the Nuendo Live that comes. I get a license for with my YouTube with my Yamaha mixers. It's not an editor, but it does okay for recording. You could also use any of your DAWs for recording multi-channel as well. I've seen a lot of people using, well, all of them really. So Ableton was the one that I watched a couple videos on YouTube a little while ago. At church, the guy who runs audio in a church, he did a video about how to mix using one of the DAWs. I forget which one it was. But yeah, going with a DAW on your computer and an audio interface is the cheapest solution. And if you happen to be working with Dante, it's trivial. You just use Dante virtual sound card, bring them in on one of your network interfaces. That's the way I do mine. So using Nuendo with Dante virtual sound card, or actually even USB going to my audio mixer. But yeah. Can the frame rate and resolution of the stream to YouTube be changed on the Web Presenter 4K? I want to stream 1440. Also, can I stream to multiple sites, YouTube, Facebook, at the same time? Okay, so a couple questions there. So you can change the frame rate and resolution, but only to standard video frame rates and resolutions. When I mean I mean like traditional video, like television, not computer. So 1440 is not one of the options that you're going to get on those. You get 720, you get 1080, and then on the Web Presenter 4K, you get Ultra HD at 3840 by 2160. There's no option for 1440, and you can't do your own presets that way. So you're limited to just those handful of resolutions. Frame rate, you can do 24, 25, 30. I don't think you can do 48, and then 50 and 60. So yeah, and then also, can you stream to multiple sites at the same time? Not from the Web Presenter itself. You need to go through another service like Restream.io. You can do it through one of those and take one single stream from the Web Presenter and send it out to multiple destinations. So, rephrasing my question, what do you use for internet that needs to be spread out to separate stream setups in a remote location? You're talking about redundant internet connections, bonding, that kind of thing. Cellular has been the thing I've had the best luck with. I've tried using some wireless services, like point-to-point wireless, and those can work okay, but you've got to arrange ahead of time with somebody to provide the internet to you in that location where you're going to be working. Cellular has been the most consistent, and I would just bond multiple cellular connections together for the streaming. I have Starlink. It does not work well for streaming. It's inconsistent bandwidth, just wreaks havoc with most video encoders. When I did testing with it, the only encoder that I tried that was somewhat usable was the Hyperdex VDU series. They kind of worked over Starlink. The other ones, well, OBS did okay. OBS was all right, but the other ones were just a complete mess. Web Presenters failed completely. Yeah, it was absolutely. Web Presenters did horribly over Starlink. But if you have a streaming setup where you're going through a bonding service, then Starlink can give you additional bandwidth, but I would never rely on it for primary bandwidth for any sort of live streaming capability. Its data transfer rates are just all over the place. Took me some time to end up with 2 independent PC outputs. Anyway, fiber products for middle things that have a lot of stuff done wrong. They use connectors that are non-standard. One super expensive just because it has 2 LC and 4 power lines, and they don't use. You're going to be getting into proprietary connections for pretty much any sort of budget solution because the right connectors are so incredibly expensive. So yeah. All right, Jim Jones, do you feed comms through the BMD camera converter, or are you using separate wireless solution? Both. So for camera operators, I use these guys for all of the for all the intercom capability. Because the nice thing about these, the audio for intercom is sent out as part of the SDI signal. It's coming to and from the studio converter you have it connected to on the other end. It's just there are additional channels on SDI. So what that means is you're getting audio that's 48 kilobit and 24 bits. So DVD quality audio, better than CD quality audio. The problem with this solution by itself is the audio levels coming into these things from the microphones that tend to be too low. And so if you only use these things by themselves and don't process the audio any other way, it's too quiet in most situations. So you have to run it through something else, which is where I've come up with the Dante-based solution that I have. And I did a couple of different videos on my channel about that whole setup, where I've got the Blackmagic stuff for connecting the cameras, and then I have some Hollyland wireless for wireless intercom. And all that stuff goes through Dante, and then I have traditionally mixed that on a Behringer X32 rack mixer. I am in the process of replacing that with a Symmetrics Radius DSP instead, because it offers way more processing and it occupies a lot less space, a lot less rack space, and uses less power. And gives me ultimate flexibility. I can process any signals that I want. And so that was the last video that I did on this channel, actually, was that new Symmetrics DSP and how that intercom works. But yeah, so all the audio that I have in my intercom is Dante, is sent over Dante, and processed by either the X32 or a Symmetrics DSP. And that has worked so well, so incredibly well. I get nothing but compliments from people who've used my intercom system. They say it sounds better than anything else that they've ever used. Like they say things like, it sounds like the person I'm talking to is sitting right next to me, and that is true. I also do a better job of controlling audio levels than you see with others as well. So you know, I have situations where one person is quiet and someone else is too loud. My setup handles that really well. But in addition to having, again, DVD quality audio, now I do additional processing just to make it sound better. Roll off the lows, emphasize sibilance, try and get rid of background noise. Add compression so the levels are consistent. Just a lot of stuff, a lot of processing going on there in order to have the highest quality audio possible. I need a water break. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, another comment on the middle thing is fiber. Canon XS605 is a great pro camcorder, but not cheap. Pairs well with the CR-N500 PTZ. Both can be controlled remotely via free Canon multicam software or companion. Yeah. So I would say if you're looking to get new cameras, get cameras all in the same family. And you're just going to end up with more consistent, better results than you will if you're mixing and matching. So yeah. Hey Doug, curious to have any experience with MADI audio. Got one of the new Constellation 4K 4ME and noticed it has MADI capabilities. I'm assuming it's similar to Dante. There are some similarities, but fundamentally they're very different. So Dante is point to multi-point. MADI is point to point. What that means is MADI, you've got your group of channels, audio channels coming, in this case, coming out of the Constellation switcher, comes out on BNC connector, and you connect that to another device, and then you're getting a total of 64 channels of audio over a single connector. But you're limited to those 64 channels, and you can only go from one device to another device. Dante, on the other hand, any channel on any Dante device can be routed to any input on any other Dante device on the network. And in addition to that, you can have a single output drive multiple inputs. So you don't have to worry about things like distribution amplifiers and that kind of thing. So say, for example, you want to have channels 1 and 2 from your Constellation going into a audio recorder, and then you want channels 3 and 4 to go over to a video encoder or whatever. You can't do that with MADI, because MADI, it's like all channels go from one place to one other place. Dante, you could. So with the Constellation switchers, if you want to have those kinds of capabilities, you need to take the MADI and convert it to Dante, or analog if you wanted to. And then you can route it how you want. But MADI is fundamentally from this location to this location, and that's all. So very different. In terms of devices that are capable of doing that conversion, there are some relatively inexpensive devices that will do conversion one way, but where you run into difficulties of going the other direction, and that's because the Constellations don't have a word clock input for the audio, for that MADI signal coming back into the switcher. And so the problem people are running into is they end up with basically garbled audio because the two devices are not in sync. So if you need to bring audio into a Blackmagic switcher, it needs to be clocked to the same internal clock that the constellation is using, which basically means clocking to the MADI output. I know this is getting too deep, but bottom line is MADI can work really well if you just need to get audio out of the constellation into a mixer. But aside from that, it's kind of limited in what you can pull off with it. So I hope that answers your question. All right, more discussion about the middle thing stuff. Yeah. Any experience putting one of your cams on a DJI gimbal with Raven Eye or auto following subjects? I have not done that myself, so I can't really comment on that. So, do you want to add 3D graphics for sports events or for the trailer, like an upgrade with 3D tracking and stuff? It'd be nice. The thing I'm finding, and I am doing a lot more sporting events these days than I've ever done in the past, but I'm finding that most everybody I work with has an existing solution that they want to use, to the point where I don't even have that discussion with them about what graphics solution that they want to have me set up in the trailer ahead of time, because they already have their mind made up, and in most cases they already have their own computers and everything set up for that. So I fear that making an investment there would be a bit of a waste of time and money, because I find a lot of situations where it wouldn't be used. So it'd be nice, but because there's no one solution that everybody uses, it'd be difficult to make that and have it make sense. Alright, HDR can do two graphics to get the key on the second screen. Okay, I've never tried it. I'll take your word for it and assume that it does. Alright. I ask Blackmagic support for an updated 4K converter every time at NAB and every time I talk to them on the phone. Thank you for putting that out there. More people should let them know that that's wanted. I would love to have that product line be addressed. My fear is that they're not doing anything with that. This product line has not been updated in any kind of way for 8 years. So I'm not holding my breath. Okay. Have you done any sports that need scoreboard interpretation? If so, what's your workflow? I have. I've done a number of things. The last one I did was a basketball event. We needed to have live scores. I used a piece of software called Scoreboard. Why is the acronym failing me? OCR. Scoreboard OCR. There you go. So you point a camera at the scoreboard, and then it uses optical character recognition technology to generate a feed of the score data. And then I modified my own graphics software to plug into that, pull that data, and then modify the graphics in real time for that. And that's worked well. I've been happy with that. Praying that BMD will incorporate Dante directly into switchers rather than just MADI. It would be nice. I don't see it happening. Dante licensing is not super cheap, and Blackmagic doesn't like. It's not their MO to spend money on expensive licenses. So, all right, free multi-channel with Audacity for capture, easy breezy. 16-channel mixer with A to D interface. Reaper is a great option, and Reaper is the one. Yeah, that's the one I was trying to think of earlier. Free option and free or fair price DAW too. Yeah, so Reaper would be probably the first thing I would recommend people go to for capturing multi-channel audio. Guess what? I'm spoiled when it comes to lower thirds and other live graphics when using vMix. No need to pre-render. You just update text, images, and colors manually or using data source like Google Sheet. Yeah, vMix handles that reasonably well, so that's a decent solution. Best software to kick out a live stream to 2 YouTube channels simultaneously, or one YouTube and one Facebook. Well, there's a lot of solutions to that. If you want to go back and look at some of the videos I've done here on this channel, I have one that talks about how to set up your own RTMP server, and one of the things you can do by doing that is send the same stream to multiple destinations. So you can do that, but again, restream.io. It's not that expensive. You can use them to do that. So yeah. Have you used big box lenses and broadcast cameras before? What was it like prepping and using them? I've been on crews where they've been used. I have never been the one to set them up. That's always been somebody else's job. So yeah, I don't have hands-on time myself with them. So yeah, you know, if I ever get ultra wealthy, I will be investing in some, but that's not going to be happening anytime soon. So Nitric Optocon Duo connectors and cables that Middleton's uses are a lot more expensive than SMPTE fibers. So optical con has kind of become the standard for a lot of that stuff until you get into the high-end SMPTE fiber. So it's sort of the halfway ground between the LC stuff that I use and LC/MTP and the other, mostly because it is LC and MTP in a more rugged housing. So yeah. Let's see. I was watching your how to control Ursa and BMD studio cameras from ATEM mini switchers video. Is there another way to control, for example, the micro Blackmagic camera from the ATEM software ATEM? It's the same. You do the exact same thing. So if you have an HDMI switcher, you plug the HDMI connection input from the switcher into one of the Blackmagic bidirectional converters, and then use the SDI connections from there to go into the Blackmagic camera. So yeah. Tracks live by Waves. It's a multi-channel recorder and also free. There you go. I missed the start of the live. Will be available in archives. Yes, I will leave this up after we're done, so you'll be able to go back and watch it later. So, all right. I actually caught up here. You see AI being implemented in live production anytime soon. Are our jobs safe? I will assume that we'll see some AI stuff happening with some of this at some point. Right now it seems that there's not been a huge focus in that area just yet. I've always thought it would be really cool to have some AI for doing some of the tasks, like for example switching cameras, so you have an AI that's listening to dialogue that's going on and switching between cameras based on what people are saying. For example, somebody is referring to the text that's on a PowerPoint slide, have it automatically cut to the PowerPoint slide, or you have two people conversing back and forth to have an AI that sort of senses when the appropriate time switch between the two cameras would be. That would be pretty cool. Facial recognition for lower thirds would be pretty awesome. So you don't have to necessarily type in things. It just knows who someone is and is able to generate lower thirds in real time. That would be pretty cool. A lot of opportunities there, but I don't see a lot of efforts being made in that area just yet. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what's going on with that. All right. So we've got a Constellation 8K, and I'm wondering about using the Visca protocol, which the ATEM RJ12 port to control AW UE150s as a backup solution. Any advice for setup or better options? I wouldn't use the ATEM Visca stuff for that. I would come up with something else. There's a lot of better options than that. The Visca support on the ATEMs is as bare bones, as basic as you can possibly get. So you'll get much better capabilities with something else. So yeah, I think we could strip down a couple BMD products and make our own 4K camera converter. It seems like they've already updated all the individual pieces. It actually wouldn't be that hard for someone to build one using some FPGAs, because essentially all those things are doing is embedding, well, it's doing your SDI and HDMI conversion, obviously, but it's also extracting audio for the intercom and embedding return audio for intercom. Other than that, there's just not that much going on inside of these. So even somebody who has a fairly basic electrical engineering degree would have the know-how to do that. I know a guy, and I've been tempted to ask him if he wanted to get involved in a project, but he's busy. I'm busy. I certainly don't want to get into the business of manufacturing hardware. That's insanely expensive and low margins. Software like I do for my job is a much more profitable, better way to go. So, yeah. But yeah, it wouldn't be that hard for someone to do it. There's not much going on in there. Constellation 8K seems like it's end of life to me. Any thoughts? Well, I don't see them updating it any longer, if that's what you mean. There's not a lot of reason to. Nobody's producing an 8K. I think they did that just because so they can have bragging rights. You know, it's like, hey, we produced the first 8K switcher, but nobody's using. I mean, Olympics, yes, but nobody else is doing 8K stuff anywhere. So, yeah, it's probably end of life at this point. Considering it's $3,000 more than the 4K version, and they're essentially the same switcher, in terms of their capabilities. Yeah, so the 8K adds a $3,000 to that price, and nope, since somebody's doing that. Not even their 12K camera can output at 8K, so trying to get footage for 8K is difficult. Oh yeah. How would you record an XML or EDL file in your trailer for importing in your editing software to edit the live cut later on? My current setup doesn't have a way of doing that. That's not something that I've felt like I needed very badly. I see the benefit from it. And, you know, it'd be very cool to be able to go back and recut something after the fact. No matter how good a technical director is, at some point they're going to inevitably make a cut to a camera that's not ready, or a cut at some time they shouldn't, or they want to alter the timing of it. And so being able to tweak those is pretty awesome. In the past, when I've needed to do that, what I've done is I've just brought in all the footage into like Adobe Premiere, and then use the audio to sync them, even timecode to sync them up, and just trim those various pieces. It doesn't take that long. It's not nearly as time consuming as people might think it is. So it's never been something that I've needed. There have been several people that have attempted that in the past. John Barker, I've mentioned, he produced a piece of software once upon a time that recorded the times that those transitions are taking place and to what camera, and so it was able to produce a file for editing. I've heard of other people trying to take that on as well. I've thought about doing it too. I just haven't done it. But as of right now, I don't know that there's any solution out there that does it just right out of the box. So Alex Pettit just did a video on his channel, like last week I think it was, that talks about that topic. And so if you want more information, you can go watch his video. All right. Do you own any kind of drone, either for live production or just for fun? I bought a DJI Phantom 3 years ago. I still have it. I have not taken it and flown with it for several years. I don't use my drone on production, so I'm not licensed to do so. When I do need a drone for production, I have guys that I call that are professional drone operators who are properly licensed and understand all the rules and follow all the rules. So when I need a drone, that's what I do. I go to somebody else. I don't. I'm too busy doing other stuff. You know, I just keeping getting the trailer set up and making sure everything is working is a full-time job in and of itself, let alone being able to take on running a drone or a camera myself. So I always bring on other people when it comes time for it. So. What fiber converter do you recommend for 4 plus 12G SDI PTZ cameras? Need to route them 3 floors down. Is there an all-in-one solution for multiple cameras? Well, I mean, let's say for SDI, there are solutions that multiplex that. I don't know that I have any specific recommendations in that area. I know Studio Technologies produces some boxes that do that. I can't remember off the top of my head who else might. I know they exist, but I would do individual fibers. 4 strands for the video, and then a separate one for network for control. So the other solution would be NDI. NDI would work really well for that situation. So that's one of the situations where NDI would make sense. I have a lot of interfaces and converters powered by USB-C, mostly at switcher location. Have you ever found a multi-output Type-C USB power supply? I've never looked for one that's USB-C specifically. I did just invest in one kind of a no-name brand for powering and charging my devices when I'm traveling. It would work well for that. One I got, it was 240 watt. It had 5 USB-C outputs and then 2 USB-A outputs. So, but you can use any of the ones that do USB-A. There's been a ton of those things over the years. They would work just fine. So you just add a USB-A to USB-C cable. They work well. I actually have those in some of my equipment racks to power USB-C equipment. They work well. School I work for is looking to invest into a new video broadcast system with full instant replay capabilities. Should I do Blackmagic for switchers and 3Play for instant replay, or should I look at ROS? If you got the budget for ROS, I would go that way, but 3Play, I've heard enough horror stories about that I don't think I could recommend that. vMix would be my next solution. vMix is actually what I use for that. In vMix, you can do up to 8 cameras. Yeah. So I would either say go ROS or vMix based on budget. So if you had budget for EVS, you could do that, but I don't think people who have budget for EVS watch this channel. Also planning for Blackmagic to make a rack mount video hub with full HDMI and SDI cross conversion with audio embed and de-embed. It'd be nice. I don't see it happening though, honestly. Once you get to a point where you're needing a video hub, everybody kind of just assumes that you're walking away from HDMI and doing SDI. That's honestly what you should be doing. HDMI is not an ideal solution for professional video, and if you want a solution that's going to be reliable and not let you down, if you have an HDMI source, convert it to SDI as quickly as you can with the shortest cable you can get away with, and then run with SDI from there, because that's what it's made for. HDMI was designed for hooking up your Blu-ray player to your television. Professional video was never a consideration when it was designed, and so it's a bit of a hack, and that doesn't necessarily work super well. So looks like I'm caught up again, which is good. So I've been going for an hour and 41 minutes. I definitely want to wrap this up before I hit 2 hours. So let's get the last group of questions in, so I can start winding things down a little bit. So, where are you guys watching from? Leave a comment saying where you're at and what time it is there. So I try to vary when I do my live stream so that various parts of the world can actually join, and even varied different days of the week. This may be the first one I've done on Sunday in a long time. Sundays are about my only days that I know I could possibly have time. My schedule during the week is pretty hectic. Most days my calendar is full from the time I get up until late afternoon. Also, anybody who's watching, leave a comment. What kind of video production you actually do? We got a bunch of questions coming in now. All right, let's see. All my racks have multiple converters. I think we're all in that situation where we've got a bunch of SDI HDMI converters. I would love to see a product from Blackmagic or AGA or somebody that has multiple HDMI SDI converters in a rack mount format. So like 4, 6, 8 converters all in a rack mount form factor. That would be awesome. All right, Paul, I love my Mini S3 Pro. It's great. Version just came out recently. Awesome. I'm pretty sure you're talking about drone there. Yeah. Yes. Hey, Doug, how's the testing going? Not well. As we speak, the Web Presenter 4K is buffering yet again. It seems to be doing that quite a lot. So, as suspected, the web presenters are just not reliable solutions for live streaming. What is your 12-year-old video called "Living in a Box"? Okay, all right. Okay, so everybody make a note after you finish watching this live stream. Go to my channel, look for a video called "Living in a Box." So there's a story behind that. So I was involved with a church group. This would have been 2004, so literally 20 years ago. And once a year they would do talent shows. And my involvement with the talent shows was primarily doing video and audio for them. And one thing we discovered as part of these talent shows, it would take a long time for one act to wrap up and get off the stage, and for the next act to get their act together, literally, and get onto the stage and get ready to show whatever talent they were gonna share. And I came up with the idea of doing commercials to play between the acts as kind of a way to fill the time. And so we broke up everybody into groups of about 8 or 10 people and asked them to write a commercial and then I shot and edited ones for everybody. And my roommate and I at the time decided we would do one too. And so the Living in a Box was the one that my roommate Brad and I did for the talent show. And so, yeah, I had this. This was right in the heyday of the reality TV shows where it was absolutely going crazy. And I had this idea of a reality TV show where somebody has to live in a box for a year. And I thought that could be pretty funny, and so shot a video. Just a couple little behind the scenes things on that. So we used that was right after I got my first HD cameras, the Sony FX1s. I forget the prefix. Anyway, so I bought 2 of those. I actually bought them from Japan when they were first announced. Serial numbers 32 and 35, just FYI. So I got those things when they first came out, and that was one of the first things we shot on that. And so those were shot in HD as the first things I shot in HD. We shot it in the yard of the house I was living in at the time. We used a jib that I had built, or actually my roommate and I had built in the garage. And so the aerial shots, or high shots, were being shot on a jib that I designed and built from scratch. And we went through 3 different boxes in the course of shooting that. We shot it in November, and it was freezing cold outside. And a little bit of a spoiler here, so if you don't want to have the ending spoiled, plug your ears for a minute. But the very last shot of the video, I'm taking a bath in the box, and the box is filled with water. And the way we did that was took a tarp and just duct taped around the outside of the box, and then ran a hose and filled it up just long enough to get the shot. But it was literally freezing outside, freezing temperatures, and it was cold water. And so as I'm moving in the shot, you can see me moving around really fast, and that's because I was shivering so bad I couldn't hold still otherwise. And the shot that we got was basically the only usable footage that was in there, because I was in and out of there so fast, in and out of the water so fast, that yeah, we barely got what we needed. But anyway, so that's just a fun little video that my roommate Brad and I did at the time. And there's another video on my channel. Maybe I have taken it down, but an apple pie video that Brad and I did as well. That was for one of his school assignments. We just had fun with that. So anyway, okay. UK 9:40 p.m. We're getting late. Rochester, New York 4:41. Greetings from UK. Do you use GPU encoding in OBS and for 4K streaming? Yes. So I have an NVIDIA RTX 2060 in that computer that's doing the encoding. London 2140, Poland 2242. You guys are getting kind of late there. Portugal 9:40 p.m. Sweden 2242. Sweden 2240. A lot of people in Europe there. That's crazy. Portugal, nice. 2242. Germany 2242. France. Cape Verde, West Africa, nice. Very international audience today. Palm Springs, very few U.S. And so Paul's 25 miles away from me. I know where he's at. San Francisco, mostly sports productions. Live stream for conferences, government meetings. UK 2143. Public Ireland, nice. I want to go to Ireland. That would be a cool place to go. Colorado, so the same time zone as me. Mostly esports. Alberta, Canada. Arena sports, mostly hockey. 4Cam streaming for arts groups and nonprofits. Contractor for high-end stuff. 50-year production career. Awesome. Yeah. Concert filming, funeral service since COVID. Conferences, iMag for events. Do you have a solution for bonded internet? I don't have a great one. Spencer linked to the Living in a Box video. Thank you, Spencer. Spencer's another friend of mine. I worked with him many times. He's also here in Utah. He works at one of the local venues that I always enjoy working at. Let's see. City government, multicam, live stream for all different types of events. Eric, thanks for the links. Yep. Watching Ethiopia. Cool. I didn't know we had so many people in Africa. All right, I'll come back to this one. University large group, automated lecture, student television, mostly student events with 2 to 3 cameras. Stoke-on-Trent in England, Chicago, South Africa, Australia. Yeah, it's like we're getting in the morning there. Nebraska. I used to live in Nebraska, actually, for 10 years. Atlanta. St. Patrick's Day in Ireland soon. Nice. Latvia. Galas, conferences, community events, remote production, stuff like that. I like to hear about what you guys are up to. That definitely impacts the content that I produce for this channel, believe it or not. So, okay, we had a couple questions mixed in there. Okay, bonded internet. I'll have to think about that one. Reach out to me on Discord, and I'll come up with an answer there. Let's see here. If you could rebuild from the ground up the trailers, what would you change from the start? This is unique to me, but I would have designed for the YouTube channel. I didn't even think about shooting my YouTube videos in the trailer when I built it, even though I had my YouTube channel before I started the trailer. So this works, but it's a little awkward. I'm having to shoot at a weird angle, and I'm in a very uncomfortable position here. So I would definitely do that a little bit differently. But if I was going to rebuild from the ground up today, it would mostly be just more modern equipment. So when I built it, I made the right choices for the most part. When I built it, I designed for 4K at 30 frames per second, because the jump to going to 4K at 60 frames per second would have driven up the cost by more than double and would have pushed me past my power budget. I could do 4K 60 today with the equipment that's available now, but then I couldn't. So I would probably do that. I would probably design around 4K 60. When I do my upgrade here to the trailer soon, I will be upgrading some of the core equipment so that it could do 4K 60, but like all of the HDMI SDI converters throughout, and there's a lot of them, they're 4K 30 only, and I don't think I'm going to take the time to replace those just yet. Like, I don't see any situations where I'm going to be shooting 4K 60 anytime soon. But I may consider a slightly different layout. You know, I came up with this layout with a way of trying to get a maximum of 8 people in here. In practical terms, 8's too many. It's just too crowded. We've had situations where we've done 6 in the trailer, and that's pushing it. So I would probably, if I was going to redesign, I would probably design for 6 rather than 8. And like some of the little stuff, like this desk, where this desk is only really designed for 1 person, I would probably extend it out, make it for 2, get rid of the 2 desks that are over here on this other side. I know you can't see that, but if you watch one of the other videos where I kind of do a walkthrough, there's a desk here that I designed for graphics and PTZ camera control. I would probably omit that moving forward and just do 2 seats here instead. I would probably isolate audio a little bit more than what I have. Instead of doing 2 big monitors across the front, again, I know you can't see this stuff, but instead of doing 2 big monitors with 3 below, I would just do a wall of 6 monitors and not bother with the big monitors. The big monitors have not been that useful. So mostly little stuff. Fundamentally, is worked pretty well the way that it is. I would redistribute the weight a little bit differently. With the way the trailer is set up currently, it's a little heavy on the tongue of my truck. I need to get some of the weight out of the front. So I would redo the power systems. When I built it, again, I did the right thing, but nowadays we have lithium iron phosphate batteries that are available and affordable. They were available then, but they were too expensive. So I would do it using lithium iron phosphate today instead of the gel AGM that I'm using. But it's mostly little stuff. I mean, I wouldn't fundamentally do anything majorly different based on what I've done. This has worked really well in so many situations. It's been really well. It's worked really well. I've been really happy. Doug doing the ice plunge. Yeah, pretty much that's what that was. So Paul used to help out on running camera for some of those old talent shows. So okay, I've answered this one before, but what app are you using to post the questions live on YouTube? This is H2R Graphics. So alrighty. More questions. Why are so many broadcasting SNGs when SRT is so much more cost effective? I don't know. Somebody who uses one and respond. Oman. Is that pronounced Qatar? I've heard that pronounced so many different ways. I'm not sure what the right way is. Mexico. Yeah. Would love a more in-depth network video. Do you use DHCP servers for all the VLANs? Do your PCs have a dedicated NIC for Dante? I probably should do a more thorough network video for the trailer. I'm running, it's at least 6 VLANs here in the trailer. DHCP, the router that I use, the Edge Router X, provides DHCP for all the networks which use it. I do not do DHCP on my Dante VLAN. Audinate recommends, for the best reliability, that your Dante network actually use auto-assign addresses, so the 169.254, and that's what I do primarily. The benefit of doing it that way is that when I go to a venue that has Dante and I want to tie into their network, I literally just plug my entire network into theirs, and then it takes on their IP address scheme. I don't need to shut down a DHCP server or manually set in the IP addresses. It all just kind of works. But the other networks do have DHCP coming from my Edge Router X. My Edge Router also provides the routing between those where it's needed. So the VLAN video that I'm going to be doing here before too long, I hope, is going to talk about how to route traffic between VLANs, because that's been the biggest question that I get on my VLAN videos. Like, how do you route? How do you have a device on one VLAN talk to a device on another VLAN? So, yeah. All right, the more people are responding to what they do, produce 140 games of ice hockey between April and August, split between the National League and the state representative tournaments for the national body, and that's on Australia. Awesome. Specialize in remote production multi-camera events. VMX did a video profile on this last year. I'll have to go look that up. That'll be interesting to see. Came out and visited our studios in Newcastle. Okay. DHCP has benefits over static. You can also use reservations when running DHCP, and you can also have some devices have constant IP as well on DHCP. Yes, absolutely. So, yeah. What is your brand of choice for RF links over long distance? Had a production that requires RF over 2,000 meter span. Struggling to find something reliable. Truck we're using as full IP VisRT. Well, if it's just IP, there's a bunch of solutions out there. For my own thing, I use the Ubiquiti air fiber stuff, so that works very well. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's the best solution, but I know it's one that I've used and I know works. Work for a financial company, internal live town halls, client webinars, corporate product, blah blah blah. So you did think about a sliding door for audio at one time, didn't you? It's been so long I forget. Yes, Paul helped out with building some of the trailer, and we had talked about all sorts of solutions to try and isolate the audio booth. None of the solutions we came up with were great. And part of the reason for that is the way that the desk on this other wall, and again, I know you guys can't see this, but there's a desk on this wall that's just opposite me, and it sticks out in the aisle a little bit to give room for a network engineer or a video engineer in the back to actually have some space to work. But that means that the hallway between that desk and the audio booth is fairly narrow, and adding a sliding door in there would have made it stick out that much farther, and it's already kind of a tight fit, and so that's why we didn't go that route. But we did talk about it. Yes, you are absolutely right, Paul. We did absolutely talk about that. Hope everyone is doing well. Finally caught the live. Awesome. Thanks for joining. All right. Left Shaw Spotlight. After 5 years producing television, now a mix of live, commercial, and indie film. So not so much. What was I going to say? Not so much the television broadcast anymore. Nice. SNG's work. We often don't have good internet at our production location to stream via SRT. And Paul saying he flew into Newcastle last year for the movie he worked on in Durham and Castle Eden. So nice. Yeah, Paul's been all over the world shooting films. It's kind of cool. I would say that I'm slightly jealous, but at the same time, I'm more of a homebody. So yeah. Peplink with Speed Fusion for bonded internet. Peplink is one of the solutions that I would mention. I haven't used it personally, but I know a lot of people do like it. So yeah. Josh, Doug, I want to say thank you for these videos. It's been an enormous asset as I just recently started streaming high school sports. I'm glad to help where I can. I mean, that's why I keep doing this. And that actually reminds me, I was going to talk about the YouTubers quitting phenomenon that's been going on. So, spoiler, I'm not going anywhere, guys. So, yeah. All right. Remy will take off in the coming years. We use LiveView Solar Pros with low latency config and it's perfectly feasible. LU800 can go as low as 0.8 second delay end to end. That works great as long as you're not controlling the camera from the other opposite end of that. The problem is when you have to be able to send control signals from where you're producing back to where the event is happening. 0.8 seconds is too long for anything at that point. So, yeah. Been watching for quite a while. Just want to say you've taught me so much since I've gotten into live horse racing production in Canada. Thanks and cheers. Awesome. I'm glad this stuff's helpful. So, the audio booth needs a stained glass ceiling like the ATL Videotape Associates production van I used to work in circa 1990. So, some sort of artwork would be cool. For me personally, I'm much more about function over form. So if you were to step in the audio booth today, you see that the ceiling is lined in foam, and then the carpet is lining the walls, so that there's as little reflections in there as possible. I would balk at someone trying to add a hard surface in there, just because all the reflections it would create, and the distortion of the audio that would result. So, anyway. Okay. And one more round of a little survey here. How long have you guys been watching the channel? Are you new? You've been here for a long time. This time of year marks 8 years since I started doing this channel. So it's been a while. And I'm just curious how many people have been with me for the bulk of that. And then I'm going to talk about the YouTubers quitting phenomenon, what I think is behind it, and why it doesn't apply to me. And then we'll call it good. So. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. I can see there's a little bit of a delay here between when you guys comment and when I see it here in H2R graphics. I can see the comments coming in the YouTube window, but I can't show them yet. JVC HD500 camcorders have a web REST API, so we can remotely control them for shading. Either we're using human operators, not PTZ. Yeah. If you're doing remote connection, you pretty much have to use on-site human operators. So, all right, 3 years, 5 years, a little over 2 years. Rug artwork for trailer. There you go. I bought a Gator 12U case thanks to your recommendation. Great piece. Nice. Yeah. The Gator cases are great for if you're just transporting stuff around in vehicles. I would never put one on an airplane. So. 3 years, 5 years, I reckon, since the trailer build. Very nice. I think I picked up a lot of my subscribers in the trailer. And contributed big time to my current job so far. Awesome, thank you. Few years, 5 years. You helped a lot during this time. Probably 2-3 years, not sure. 3 years. 6 months after I got into streaming. 7+ years. Nice. Learned so much. Can't thank you enough. Thank you. Let's see, 1 to 2 years. Trying not to highlight the person-to-person conversations here, but sometimes I miss it. Yeah, I can see a few more coming in. I haven't shown up in my software yet. So, all right. So while I'm waiting for more comments, I must address this YouTubers quitting kind of thing. For people who put themselves on a regular schedule to do YouTube videos, you know, they're going to say, for example, I'm going to do a video every week. That puts a lot of pressure on you. And I've felt that before. I understand where they're coming from. I can understand why somebody would want to, not just want to, but need to walk away from doing YouTube videos on a constant basis. There's a lot of work that goes into it, more than anybody really understands, and it makes sense to me that we're seeing a lot of burnout. And we've seen a lot of YouTubers quit, not just recently, but in the past. It's just been the last few months where a lot of high-profile or YouTube videos, or YouTubers just walk away, saying I'm done. Tom Scott, Matt Pat, a bunch of other ones. I get where they're coming from. It's It can ruin your life. But I want to say that I still enjoy doing this, and I think a lot of it's because I'm not putting myself on a schedule or forcing myself to produce content on any kind of regular basis. And the fact that I get so much positive feedback from you guys that watch the channel, that keeps me going. And so, if anybody fears that I'm going to be going away anytime soon, it's not happening. I keep a spreadsheet of all the list of ideas for things that I want to do for videos, and ever since I started doing that, the list keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. I'm not out of content. There's so many things that I could produce video on, and the more I do it, the more I realize there's more stuff out there that I could do. And especially as I'm interacting with people who are viewers of the channel, it seems like there's a lot of things that I could do, a lot of things I could do videos on that would be helpful to a lot of people. And so again, the list of videos that I want to make, it just keeps getting longer and longer. If I did nothing but produce one of those videos on my list every week, I would have enough for 2 years at this point. There's that many. I don't have that kind of time on my hands, so that's not going to be happening anytime soon. And I don't put any pressure on myself to meet any kind of schedule of producing videos here for the channel. I do it when I have the time to do it, basically is what it boils down to. And if I could find somebody to edit for me, I would be doing it more often, but since I'm the one that's doing the editing on them as well, that means I have to not just find the time to shoot, but also do the editing and all the other post-production that goes with it. Yeah. Setting up the links, the affiliate links, the informational links, doing the lower thirds, doing the thumbnails, all that kind of stuff. It all takes time. No one thing takes a long time, but it adds up. So, and I'm very busy. In addition to the video stuff that I do, I mean, I do maintain that basically the equivalent of 2 full-time jobs doing contract software development, and I have my career access thing on top of all of that. And of course this YouTube channel, so a lot going on. I still enjoy doing videos. I always have. I've never felt burnout doing videos here for this channel, and it's always been something I've enjoyed, especially when I continue to get great feedback from you guys. So I'm not going anywhere. The frequency of videos, it's going to vary. It's going to be up and down, just based on what else I have going on in my life. But I have enough content, enough ideas that it's going to keep me going for a long time. No plans to go anywhere. So if anybody concerned about me getting burned out and walking away, not happening, folks. I'm not going anywhere. So anyway, just thought I'd put that out there in case anybody was wondering. So, all right, so a few more people commenting about how long they've been watching. 6 years from the beginning, 4 years. Trailer build, so 6 years. That's Spencer, thanks. Right after trailer build, yep. Trailer build got me a lot of exposure. Appreciate all your recommendations. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's necessarily the best thing about my channel, but yeah. And Paul, just discovered your channel today. Ha ha ha. Paul and I have been friends for 25 years. No. The question here: any IP comp solution you know of that is as good as Unity, but something more Windows based? Unity's the only one I've looked into. Okay. Let's see, you have 2 Geo iNet routers, never got around to use until you did a feature on them. Now I use it with 3 PTZ cameras and 1 RTSP feed in my workflow, blah, 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 blah. I'm following you for 9 years, so longer than I've been making videos. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. Quick question, are you going to NAB this year? But yes, I'm planning on it. Meetup, yes, we'll probably do a meetup. Not just with me, but with other people who are YouTubers in this space as well. I know at least a couple others that are going to be there. So we'll do a meetup just like we did last year. So, all right. Do more live streams than you don't have to edit. I could. The downside to live streams is they don't have any replay value. Nobody goes back and watches them later on. Almost nobody. I mean, I know if you do, but for the most part, most people don't go back and rewatch them later on. Most of my other content is more evergreen. So, lots of videos that I produced 5 years ago are still relevant today, and they still get views. So live streams don't have that kind of longevity. So, yeah. I think the difference for those creators, YouTube is generally their primary revenue stream, whereas for you, it's about sharing knowledge and building a community, not putting food on the table. That is true. So, I do this certainly not for recognition, and certainly not to get rich, because, you know, I never will. The type of content I produce is never going to get me wealthy on YouTube. But it's part of the community, being part of the community. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I suspect most people watching this channel are this way. I would rather be behind the camera and not in front of it. And the fact that I do this with having the personality that I do is actually kind of shocking. And if anybody who knows me super well years ago had said, "Hey, he's going to do a YouTube channel someday," and you're like, people are just like, "What? What are you talking about?" Not Doug, no, ever, not ever. So anyway, but yeah, I enjoy putting the knowledge out there, and I enjoy interacting with you guys and building that community and helping out. So it's quite refreshing to not miss out on your live shows since you don't have a schedule. Yeah, just do it when I feel like it. H2R on another screen, your mouse appeared over the key. Oh yeah. So there you go. So yeah, so it's like with the computer. We're driving these 3 monitors right here. So yeah. What is the current situation with BMD Web Presenter 4K? Any fix for the cache problem? Nope. So as I've been doing this video, I have had a stream going with the Web Presenter 4K, and it has been up and down throughout the entire course of this video, and I've had to lower the bitrate much lower than it should be for 4K. So still broken, basically, is what it boils down to. One thing I've heard in a few YouTuber quit videos, optimizing for the algorithm versus optimizing for personal satisfaction. I don't care about any of that stuff. I produce the videos that I want to produce and put them up there, and if people watch them, great, and if they don't, no, it's kind of discouraging, but I'm still going to do it anyway. So I do nothing to try and optimize for the algorithm. So yeah. What event have you done is considered your most complex production, one you're truly proud of pulling off? I don't know if I can narrow it down to one. They're so different. They're so varied. And the ski jumping competitions are interesting and fun because of having to do such incredibly long cable runs. Hundreds and hundreds of meters. But they're only 3-4 camera, so I wouldn't call them complex. Getting audio run over that kind of distance is interesting too. I have to use Dante for that. Analog breaks down too much of those kind of distances. So there's those. Done a few where we have multiple drones up in the air. The concert series that I did, Whit and I did a video about it. Concert we did late 2020, where we had to produce shows for 3 stages simultaneously. That's complicated. Show I did 4 weeks ago, where we had a main stage plus 6 breakout rooms that we had to run simultaneously. That's technically complicated. It just varies, you know. The first show I did with the trailer, it was an outdoor concert, fairly well-known pianist. That one looked amazing. We were at a venue where they got the lighting right. Everything looked great. That was a lot of fun. So each type of event presents new challenges, and I'm the sort of person who likes to take on a challenge, stretch, grow, improve. And so every time I'm doing an event like that, where I'm improving my skill set, those are the ones that I'm most proud of. So even though the quality of the video might not necessarily be something that jumps out at you or whatever, but technically pulling something off that's difficult, those are probably the ones that I'm most proud of, if I'm being honest. So, yeah. Hey Doug, how you doing? I'm good. How do you see the video broadcasting streaming in the USA compared to Europe? I'm from Europe, and it seems that you manage bigger budgets. Is that true? I don't have a good answer for that. I've never really talked to anybody about budgets for things in Europe. Yeah. I mean, I think I have a fairly good idea what event budgets are in certain areas of the country. Here in the USA where I work, the USA is so big and different markets are so different. Just as an example, I've gotten hired to do stuff in California a number of times because it's cheaper to bring me in than it is to pay somebody local. So the budgets here in Utah are very different than the budgets in California, and California is just 2 states over. So it varies. It's all over the map. It's hard to say. I know where I'm at, Utah, we're generally cheaper than most of the big cities in the USA, but it varies. So I've done a fair amount of work in Houston. I've got a company there that likes to hire me. Whenever they do a big show, they like to fly me in for that. Their budgets are a little higher than what we have here, but not by a lot. Oh, tough to say. I'm in that situation. I'm either they're willing to spend a lot for me, or I'm cheaper than hiring somebody local. One of the two. I don't know which it is. So anyway, yeah. What, in your opinion, are your video production strengths, and if any areas you'd like to improve? I think the biggest thing that I personally bring to the table is understanding how all the stuff works. My brain just gets it. So when something's not working, my brain just kind of instantly goes to, well, these are the things that can possibly be wrong. So check these things and you'll probably find a fix. So I think probably the troubleshooting and fixing are probably my biggest ones. But at the same time, on the flip side, I think I have fairly good natural intuition into what makes a good video. And so I can do things like technical direct. So even though I don't have years and years and years of experience, I think I do okay at it. And then I'm not an amazing camera operator, but I do a decent job. I think I produce shots that are interesting and usable and better than you get with a lot of other guys. So, yeah, anyway. Yeah. Love your intentions in putting out this information, which is why I patronize you for the past year. Appreciate it. Yeah, you saved many hours of tedious gear research. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that my channel is necessarily oriented towards gear. I try to focus more on concepts so that you guys can understand stuff for yourself. You're not coming to me like, hey, what's the best switcher to get? I'm like, well, here's the information behind how a switcher works. Here's some of the concepts that you need to understand in order to use one. Therefore, when you go shopping for one, like, you have a better concept of what to look for instead of just somebody's cramming a specific recommendation down your throat. I've never been big on recommending specific products for things. And anybody who watched the channel for a long time has probably picked up on that. So, what are the largest events, views, teams, event, etc. you've ever done? Again, kind of all over the map. I've done some live streams with hundreds of thousands of viewers. I don't think I've ever hit 1 million on any. Done some events for some big ones. I'm actually negotiating a pretty big one right now. It'd be this summer. It would have quite a good sized audience and go out over a well-known network. Tough to say. It's tough to say. I don't pay a lot of attention to that. It doesn't necessarily make me produce differently if I have a bigger audience versus a smaller audience. I just always try to do the best job that I can, no matter what. And so the size of the audience doesn't have a lot of influence in how I go about producing it. So, yeah. Have you ever done any testing with SRT on the? No, I have not. So, yeah. I decided I have 2 live videos. How are you doing it? There's actually 3. So I just set up 3 live videos on YouTube itself, and then I have YouTube. I have 3 devices sending YouTube: OBS for the main stream, and then 2 web presenters for the 2 alternate streams. So, have you had any better luck with Focus Companion? Better luck, yes. I don't know that I trust it for a big show just yet. Yeah, they've come a long way in improving the reliability of Companion. I will say it still crashes on me. I can't leave it running overnight, for example. If I leave it running overnight, I come back the next day, it's crashed every time without fail. I have not had it crash on a show, inside of a show, on me for a while, but I still at this point refuse to use it for anything critical, just because I don't feel like I can 100% trust it. So, yeah. Hello from Australia. Hello. I'm not sure it's been mentioned before, but what did you think of the big Super Bowl TV coverage? I didn't watch any of it whatsoever. So, most years I watch. I'm not into football. I don't care about the sport aspect of it whatsoever. But I usually watch a little bit of it just for production stuff, you know, to see how it's produced, and see what what some of the current trends are in terms of how video is produced, so I can maybe start to incorporate some of that into my own work. But this year I had other stuff going on that day, and I didn't watch any of it. So yeah. Can you give us an average price for a sports game or a concert? It's all over the map. Yeah, it's hard to say whether this is what it's going to cost, but I mean, if you kind of wanted a ballpark figure, if I was getting hired to produce, say, something like a high school football game, I'm going to need roughly $300 to $400 for each camera operator. I'm going to charge about $1,200 for my trailer. If I can, I'll charge a little for my time on top of that, and then there's usually streaming fees on top of that. Not a lot. I just pass along costs in terms of that, but that's kind of the general ballpark of where we're going to be. So, yeah. Got to go make some music with friends. Awesome. Enjoy. All right. Are you still using MTP fiber solution? Yes. Yeah, I actually showed it earlier in the stream here. So, all right. Okay. All right, guys. It's been 2 hours and 20 minutes, so about time to wrap this thing up. So, but again, thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate all the support you guys have given here at the channel for 8 years now. It's crazy. It's been that long. It's going to be a decade here before we know it. So, but anyway, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I don't have a regular schedule when I produce videos. In the ideal world, I'd do them like once a week. I just don't have the time to do that. But anything related to video production, so especially live stuff. So it's kind of what we focus on here. And we do have a Discord set up. You go to Discord, go to djp.li/Discord, and that will take you directly to the channel. You can sign up for free. A lot of people in that community, but including a bunch of people who know more than I do. So if you ask a question, I don't have an answer, or I'm not available, somebody will jump in and help you out. It's a very friendly, very helpful group of people that are there. They're answering questions and participating in that. So, but if you have other questions, you can certainly leave those in the comment section down below, and I will do my best to answer. But I'm not an expert in all things, so I might not have an answer, but I do promise I will do my best. So, anyway, I think that's going to do it for now. So again, thanks everybody for watching, and have a fantastic day. We'll see you later.